The eviction moratorium had a heavy toll on small landlords. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's talking about the heavy toll that was paid by small landlords due to the eviction moratorium. And what it really comes down to is landlords, they basically had to defer a ton of maintenance and just let their properties fall apart just so they could survive during these eviction moratoriums. And right now they're going to be suffering the consequences all the way up until they're either able to get rental assistance, get those non-paying tenants out of their houses or units, and get paying tenants back in. And if they're not able to do that, then they're going to have to still face the financial consequences such as foreclosure, bankruptcy, forced to sell their properties or whatever. Okay, so even though the eviction moratorium has ended, there's just going to be a lot of problems for a lot of small landlords all throughout the country. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know if you had to defer any maintenance or capital expenditures, or what you had to do in order to survive through this eviction moratorium. So this article that comes from dsnews.com, and it says, "The pandemic's toll on small landlords." Even though the Supreme Court recently ended the federal eviction moratorium, landlords across the nation are still reeling from the effects of the pandemic. According to a survey of 1,000 landlords and 1,300 tenants conducted by the Urban Institute, a nonprofit research organization based in Washington, D.C. and Avail, an online rental management servicer, landlords are increasingly deferring routine maintenance when tenants cannot make rent. The survey found that 28% of landlords either delayed maintenance or skipped it altogether when renters cannot or will not pay their rent. It also found that 27% of the tenants surveyed reported that their maintenance requests have been going unanswered. While a majority of the repairs needed were minor or cosmetic, 27% of the requests involved major structural repairs, and another 28% involved plumbing. These major problems become more costly to repair as time goes on. Yeah, deferring maintenance as a landlord is, in general, not a good idea unless it's something very, very minor, okay? So just as an example, when your air conditioner goes out, that means that not only is the AC out, but now it gets hot and humid on the inside of the house, and that humidity can cause other issues. So like when your plumbing is out, you can have other issues that were caused by your plumbing problem. And, so basically it is a bad deal overall to have deferred maintenance. Not only that, but it's wrong to leave a tenant with something that's not working. So most landlords, they try to get things fixed as quickly as possible. As soon as they can find, a good contractor out there that gives them a reasonable bid, and they will just, get that taken care of. But when the eviction moratorium happened, all of a sudden these landlords, they were using the income from the tenants, paying their rent in order to fix things, and they didn't have any income anymore. So not only did they have to pay their mortgage, their property taxes, their insurance, right, and maybe property management on top of it, like I do in some of my properties, but they also had to suddenly pay, for these repairs and for this maintenance on their properties. And that's crazy to think that, okay, I'm not getting any rental income at all, but now I've got air conditioner go out and I've got to pay a repairman, let's say $500 or $600 to come in here and fix it, but I haven't been paid rent in months. So I'm just paying out of my pocket, and to cover all those other expenses, I've been coming out of pocket for months on end. So a lot of landlords just didn't have the money to make those repairs, and that's a bad situation for tenants to be in, and that's a bad situation for landlords to be in, because I know for a fact that in some states it's unlawful for the landlord not to make these sorts of repairs. So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely crazy to think that how bad of a situation the eviction moratorium put many landlords in. Maintenance has become so difficult for our landlord that most of the time we are doing it and paying for it ourselves, says one renter quoted by the survey. Repairs are adding up for some property owners as well. Some 17.9% of repairs were found to be valued at less than $1,000. 56.1% of repairs were valued between $1,000 and $10,000. 16.8% were valued up to $20,000, and 9.8% were valued at $20,000 or more. So yeah, let's break this down a little bit, okay? So it looks like 56% of repairs were between $1,000 and $10,000. Now that's a pretty big range, okay? So, but that is a very large repair in the case of most apartments or rental houses or anything over $1,000 I consider to be a large repair. Anything over $10,000 is an extraordinarily large repair, okay? So most repairs for a landlord hopefully are going to be under $1,000, but you do have some of those things that come up, like when your furnace goes out or when a big plumbing issue comes up, that are going to be over $1,000. And you hope that you don't have to deal with too many of those things at one time, but it happens, okay? So when those things do come up, if you haven't had rental income in 6 months or a year, like in the case of the eviction moratorium, you're screwed, okay? You're just screwed. And especially for these landlords who have just 1 or 2 properties, okay? I can still float major repairs in a unit that hasn't been paying me because I have 12 units, and those other units are still able to cover for that one unit that's not paying. But in the case of a landlord who only has 1 unit, you have no other income coming in. So another one of the stats that they said is that 28% of landlords have delayed or skipped maintenance, okay, when they're not getting their rental income. So that's a full 1/4 of landlords who apparently they don't have the cash flow or the reserves in order to make those repairs. So yeah, I mean, this is really, really bad, and this is kind of telling of what's going to happen, in terms of we might see a lot more of foreclosures. We might see a lot more properties that are being sold by disgruntled landlords who are just burned out. So it's unfortunate situation, but it's just a fact due all 100% to this eviction moratorium. When asked why they deferred maintenance, 62% of landlords cited financial reasons, the study said. Finances were by far the largest contributing cause, followed by difficulty accessing the rental unit and difficulty hiring help or maintenance personnel, both 27%. So yeah, finances are the biggest reason, obviously, okay? So it's kind of bad too when you have difficulty accessing the unit. Landlords should be able to access the units that they own, but I know a lot of tenants, they give landlords a lot of trouble, and especially now with the coronavirus, I know people don't want to access a unit if their tenant is sick or if they're sick or whatever, or tenants might not want anyone to come in because they're worried about getting it. So that's another new issue that a lot of landlords are having to deal with. But hopefully a landlord still would be able to get in there and make repairs when necessary. Now, the 27% on having trouble finding maintenance personnel, that is an issue that I've come across, and that's just finding decent contractors to do work, okay? And fortunately, I live in a metropolitan area that's big enough in Omaha, Nebraska, where I don't have any issues finding contractors normally. But imagine the landlords who stay in small towns, okay? They might have a lot more trouble doing that. For landlords who lost rental income, the price tag of deferred maintenance is much larger. Among landlords who did not lose rental income, 29% said their deferred maintenance costs totaled less than $1,000, and only 5% had deferred maintenance costs higher than $20,000. In contrast, among landlords who lost rental income, only 11% had deferred maintenance less than $1,000 in repairs and maintenance tasks, and 12% had deferred maintenance more than $20,000. Not surprisingly, a higher proportion of those who lost rental income were continuing to delay maintenance, the study said. So yeah, it looks like the people who have the biggest, deferred maintenance costs are in general people who don't have rental income coming in. Shouldn't be a surprise. Okay, so I don't know what they were thinking when they put these eviction moratoriums in place. If they thought that landlords, all of us, were so rich that we'd be able to float huge repairs or anything for a long period of time, and it is not the case. Okay, a lot of landlords are just middle class. They work full-time jobs. That's what I am. Okay, small landlords who work a full-time job still. I don't live off of my rentals. Okay, I have to work still to pay, for all my bills, and pay for this house that I'm in right now, and to take care of my family. So rentals are, they're supplement to an income for a lot of landlords, and they just can't afford this huge maintenance cost that come from a big loss of rental income.